To whom it may concern. Here are some recollections of my high school years, ages 14 to 18, years 1908 to 1912. During these years, I lived with my parents, my sister, and my grandparents, Grandma and Grandpa Heitkamp, at 295 Claremont Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. This house had been built by my grandfather in about 1870 and was a furnace, basement, below street level, dining room and kitchen, a parlor floor above street level, reached by stairs from the sidewalk, was the parlor, the back parlor or library, an open fireplace and a veranda, the second floor, 2 bedrooms and a bath, and the alley connecting the bedrooms had a wash basin, and the third floor, 2 bedrooms and no bath, but a room at each end of the hallway bedroom, an attic, and a trapdoor to the roof. A house was heated by hot air and a cold burning furnace. One of my duties was to tend the furnace. This consisted of putting on the coal, banking them at night, regulating the flue, shaking the grate, taking out the ashes, putting them in an ash barrel, taking them up the back steps, and putting them on the sidewalk. The milk was delivered by a horse-drawn milk wagon, ladled out in a can to the housewife. The ice also was delivered by the iceman in an ice wagon, and he would weigh it, and then put it over his shoulder, and take it and put it in the ice box. Transportation was entirely by the trolley car, and there were many of them. Practically every other street, they all converged at Borough Hall. The Brooklynites became known as Trolley Dodgers, and that name was given to the baseball team, the Dodgers. I attended the Polytechnic Paradox School, Poly Prep, and it was in a building in Living Street near Borough Hall. I went there by bicycle with a lunch box on one handlebar and a violin case twice a week on the other. Here I played basketball and was on the second team. I also managed the tennis team and was advertising manager of the yearbook, and senior year won a gold medal for oratory. The subject was the American Merchant Marine and its importance in our national defense. I belonged to a fraternity, frat, we call it, called Beta Pi, and we had rented a room in one of the houses nearby, and here I heard my first steady story. The initiation consisted of my going down a trolley car with a wad of toilet paper in my hand. They came in pads then, not rolls, and passing them out as transfers. When I returned to the room, I was given an oyster to swallow with a string on it. My subjects were English, mathematics, German, and Latin. I had 4 years of Latin, and German, I think, 2 years. There was a vaudeville house called the Orpheum on Fulton Street, and was off limits as far as my mother was concerned. But I happened to go there for one performance, quite high price. I think it was 10 cents or a quarter in the gallery. And a show consisted principally of 4 or 5 acts. There'd be performing dogs, a couple of acrobats, a pair of comedians, either German or Irish, and then a lady in tights. And she would sing off key and much applause from the gallery. I remember her name, Eva Tangway. Coney Island was situated on the ocean, reached by a trolley car, and there was an amusement park. And I think Mother put this off limits too. She felt I might meet up with bad company. Well, it consisted of a merry-go-round with a brass ring, if you got it, for a free ride, a Ferris wheel, a shoot the chutes, and a dance floor. A Prospect Park nearby had some lakes that were frozen over in the winter, and skating was allowed. This was announced by a red ball hung in the window of a trolley car. The skates were detachable. You put them on your regular shoes, and if you took your best girl, why, you would put on her skates and get a glimpse of her ankle. Well, there was a saloon practically on every corner, and I would stand opposite the saloon and watch the men come in and out. There were swinging doors, half doors, so you could look underneath and see the men legs as they stood before the bar. And once or twice a man would bring his beer home with him. He'd come out and take it home, and that was called brushing the growler. A policeman in those days wore blue jackets and helmets and copper buttons. They became known as cops and carried nightsticks. They also, they're off duty, they could go in a saloon and get a free beer and help themselves at the free lunch counter. And the free lunch counter always had a large dill pickle. The streets were lit by lamps, gas lamps, and the lamplighter was a familiar figure, come around at dusk with the pole in one hand, lift the shade, and light it, close the shade, go on to the next lamp post. Another familiar figure was the White Wing, or the sanitation department. He was dressed in white. He'd go along with a cart and a can and a shovel and a broom, and he would clean up what the horses left behind. Memorial Day, or Decoration Day as it was called, there would be a parade of the Civil War veterans up on to Prospect Park and through the Arc de Triomphe, modeled after the one in Paris, and then out to the cemeteries, and a flag put on the grave of the veterans. Father took a vacation each summer, usually a month, and we spent it in various ways. I'll recollect 3 particularly. One was at Upper Montclair. I think this was one of my freshman year at high school. And we were boarded on Clareville Avenue, and the golf course was on Grove Street. And here I learned to play golf. There were 7 clubs, wooden shafts, the driver, the brassy or fairway wood, the cleek on number 3, mid-iron or number 7, a mashie in number 9, and a putter. There were no sand traps, but a bunker across the fairway. And it's more difficult to get out of a bunker and get distance than it is today to get out of a sand trap. And we teed up with homemade tees made out of sand and water. On each tee was a pail of water and a box of sand. Another summer was spent at Bayville, near Oyster Bay on the Long Island Sound. A father bought a horse and a surrey with a fringe on top at an auction. And we drove out Eastern Parkway to Locust Valley. Right along the parkway, the horse would go from one side to the other, wherever there was a post box. So we surmised he must have been a post office boy. I learned to bridle and harness him and took father to the Locust Valley Railroad Station and brought him back. I also learned to ride after fashion, had no saddle, but put a blanket on and helped on by a box, and father would ride up and down the driveway. Bayville was located right near Oyster Bay, the summer home of the then President Teddy Roosevelt. We would go over to Oyster Bay to the drugstore for an ice cream soda, and there we might see the young Teddy on Quinton. While we were there, there was a parade of the battleship in the Sound, and father and I rode out and rode among the battleship. Quite a thrill. Here I learned to swim, and in the Sound. One summer we took a extended trip by train went to Boston and visited Lexington and Concord. These were historical background. Then we went on to Montreal, went down the St. Lawrence in a boat to Quebec and around the Gaspé Peninsula, crossed the Bay of Fundy to Nova Scotia, the land of Evangeline, and then home from Yarmouth to Boston by boat. And that boat ride, I was terribly seasick. As I mentioned, we traveled with a trunk with our clothes, and we packed them in the trunk full, sit on the lid to get it down, put a strap around it. And then it was called for by the expressman, checked on your ticket, and then taken off the baggage car by a baggage man. Mother had, and other mothers had organized what was known as the dancing class. Friends of my sister from Packer and some of the boys in the neighborhood, I guess about 15 of us all, we met at our house and moved the furniture in the parlor and put a crash cover over the carpet, and there we learned to dance. We had a dance teacher, and he had a piano on the plate itself, and a chaperone, and she would sit in a chair in the living room and fidget around if any of the couples went out and stayed too long. My best girl was Ellen T-Bout, and I took her a call for her by trolley car and took her home by trolley car. The fire engines were horse-drawn, 6 to horse wagon, and the Dalmatian dog ran alongside the horses. Dalmatian was the fireman's dog. He slept with the horses and the stable. He's supposed to have a quieting influence. The boys in the neighborhood organized the Mokwar Athletic Club, and we had a pin and a uniform and played baseball at the parade ground. And I played second base. There was a vacant lot near the home of one of the members, and we used to go out there and practice, play one old cat and knock out grounders. Well, then we dressed up on Sunday and went to church. And after church, Sunday school. And at Sunday school, we had homework. And we had to learn the Lord's Prayer, 23rd Psalm, and the books of the Bible. I still can give you the books of the Bible. After church, we visited my grandparents Miller on Hancock Street. And Grandpa would always have a large white peppermint for it. We would dress up in a suit, the jacket with padded shoulders, the vest, and high-button shoes, and a button fly. The ladies wore long dresses down to the ankle, and they high-button shoes, a gown that you button up the back. I could hear my sister call my mother, "Come button me up." Well, mother would call the sister, "Come button me up." The hats were very elaborate, and there was a popular song of the day about Nellie, who wore a hat with a bird on top. One day in February, Father came home from the office, great excitement. He said that the St. Lawrence River had frozen over above the falls, first time in memory. So we packed up and boarded a Lehigh Valley train to Niagara Falls, went out on Lookout Point, and there they were, skating on the river, a little distance from the falls, however. They didn't freeze. The summer of my senior year, 1912, we met at White Woods. Father bought a cottage there on the ridge. For the benefit of those who have not been there, White Woods is an association with about 60 or 70 houses, and about a mile frontage on the Atlantic Ocean and the Great South Bay. Distance about half a mile across, maybe a little less. Our house was on the ridge in the center and had an unobstructed view to the east of the ocean and the dunes. Ideal location. You reached it by a boat and from Bay Shore. We had a common store and ice cream parlor and an inn. We boys formed ourselves into the DTCs, Damn Tough Crowd, and we would meet at the yacht club in the morning and take out a couple of sailboats belonging to our parents and race on the sound and fool around. And then we would go down and change into our bathing suit and go down in front of the inn and meet girls and go surf bathing. They usually fairly rough, so there's more diving through the breakers than there was swimming. The costume of the boys was a trunk almost to the knees and a top, and the girls were entirely covered from head to foot. Cap, a long bathing suit, and stockings and bathing shoes. My best girl was Marjorie Allaire. There was a casino called there with dances Saturday night, and the MC was a Mr. Noble, Barnes and Noble, and Labor Day weekend there was the masquerade ball. Came in costumes and masked and unmasked, and could go for a walk between dances down Lover's Lane. Father was fond of crabbing. A rowboat with a pole and a crab net, and he'd scoop up the crabs and take them home and put them in a pot of boiling water, watch them turn from green to red, and then he would pick out the meat. And picking out crab meat is quite an art. At the end of the season, we would gather the beet plums, doing fusion then, and Mother would make beet plum jelly. Put the beet plums in boiling water, cheesecloth bag, and squeeze the bag, and out would come the juice. There were boardwalks there between the houses, and so repairing the boardwalk was one of my duties. Of the dozen or more of the DTCs, 5 of them lost their lives in World War I. Tablet to their memory is in the tape. Returning to Brooklyn, the ethnic group in Brooklyn were the Irish. The policemen were Irish, firemen were Irish, the politicians were Irish, and the saloon keepers were Irish. The immigration from the other countries had just about started, and I know Mother would have a maid who she had to train, and she said they just came off the boat. They were greenhorns, and I think mostly Polish or Swedish. The Italians are called Dagos or Wops. I forgot to mention my high school years. My chum was Alan Nicolay, and his hobby was beetles and butterflies. We would cross the Hudson, climb the Palisades, and go after butterflies in a butterfly net, and take them home and mount them. Alan would turn over stones for beetles. He had a collection. When he died, so valuable, accepted by the Smithsonian Institute. He had a dry sense of humor. Nothing seemed to bother him, and he was an ideal chum. There was a cigarette known as a sweet caporal, and with each box came a card picture of a baseball player, and we would trade those cards same way to do stamps. The collection would be worth a lot these days today. Another memory, 295, was my grandfather. He was an inveterate cigar smoker, and he would smoke what was called Pittsburgh Stogies. They were made of leavings, I believe, and they came in a package. I would go down and bring the package home for him. He would light one, and when it got near the end, put his penknife in it. So we'd get the last puff. And he had a mustache and a beard, and it was brown around his mouth. I figured that must come from Pittsburgh Stogies. He never wore shoes. He wore what was called Prussian boots. They were ankle high, and he kept them highly polished, and put them in a footstool at the foot of his chair in his bedroom. And I have that footstool. Christmas at 295 was a large family gathering. Grandma and Grandpa hiked camp out with 11 children and 9 of them through to maturity, and with the children and grandchildren, we had to have 2 sittings for dinner, and the children had a table in the hall. Grandma would sit in her chair and receive the gifts and homage of her children and grandchildren, and grandfather would stand in front of the Christmas tree, which was lit by live candles, and to see that nobody ran into the tree. He had a stand built. It was a mill. It contained water at the top and then a spillway and a pool at the bottom. Very fond. I'm very proud of it. In the afternoon, a German band would come down the street playing Old Tannenbaum. And one of the players would come up to the front to a hat in hand for a nickel or a dime. So I remember the extras. They took the Daily Eagle, and when there was a news break, they had to get out an extra. And a newsboy would come down the street yelling at the top of his voice, "Extra, extra, extra." There were 2 publications from the Curtis Publishing Company with the Youth Companion and the Saturday Evening Post. And the Saturday Evening Post was sold from door to door by boys carrying in a bag labeled Saturday Evening Post. And I tried it once, but not successfully. I'm not a salesman. One of the popular books of fiction that day was James Fenimore Cooper's Leatherstocking Tales, The Deer Slayer, The Last of the Mohegans, and The Pathfinder. Harry Bumpo was the guide and hunter with his 2 pals of the Delaware tribe, Uncas and Chinconchuke. Popular songs, well, I remember 2, and I'm not in good voice. I'll try it. One was called "Call Me Up Some Rainy Afternoon. We will have a quiet little spoon. We will kiss and hug and talk about the weather." Another one was, "Oh, you beautiful doll, you great, big, beautiful ball. Let me put my arms around you. Da, 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 da." Well, now you know why I never learned to play the violin. I couldn't carry a tune. I have revisited 295, but the trolley cars have gone. The Surrey with the fringe on top has gone. The lamp lighters have gone. The milkman is gone. The iceman is gone. The vaudeville is gone. And the button hook is gone. And the hat pin is gone. And now I must be gone. Pax vobiscum.